Welcome, everybody. We are streaming on Facebook now, and I think I got technology set. We'll see. We will see if it is working tonight. Okay, so I am going to share my screen and we'll go ahead and get started. And then at the end of everything tonight, if anybody has any questions, feel free to write them down now, and then you can share as we go. Let me see here. Okay. I have two screens tonight. I usually only have one, and it just went over into, there we go. Okay. Figuring out this technology thing. Okay, so we are doing, I'm in the wrong screen here. Bear with me for just a minute. See, I thought that I had technology all set and I did not. Bear with me for just a second. That is the wrong one. Okay. Gotta love technology. Let's try this again. Share my screen. Okay, there we go. We have the right one now. Yay! I think that this is going to work, and I think that the slides will go through since I have two monitors this time and I'm not on my laptop. So welcome. I think I need this more than everybody else does probably, but before we dive in, we're going to stop and we're just going to close our eyes for a minute and we're going to take in a deep breath and just ground yourself and just lay all of the things at the foot of the cross that you do not need to be worrying about in this next hour. And while your eyes are closed, I am going to read something to you here, and I just want you to fill in this sentence in your mind and see what the first thing is that pops up. I'm done allowing blank to control me. Was it a person, maybe your schedule or emotions, maybe a food or a thought, a situation or a belief? Maybe it's your job or an old survival habit. I just want to tell you the truth. You have control. You have control over your time, your thoughts, and your emotions. Like we talked about in the first night, you do not have control over your circumstances, things that are factual, but you do have control over everything else. Okay, so you can open your eyes again if your eyes were closed, and we'll go ahead and get started here. So today's training, we are going to break free from overwhelm, and I'm going to teach you some simple tips and mindsets and changes that I have learned over the years as a busy single mom who runs her own business. I homeschool and I work a full-time job. So there is a lot on my plate, but I have figured out the keys to not feeling so overwhelmed. That doesn't mean I don't have my moments, but this is who this is for. This is for driven women who know that they have been called for more. Maybe they know what they need to do to get healthy, just don't know where to get started. Feeling overwhelmed with life, family, work, social obligations, or lack of social interaction. If you've put yourself and your time with God on the back burner for far too long and you know that it's time to change, you're sick and tired of being sick and tired all the time, you're overworked, overtired, and overwhelmed, or driven women of faith who have been desiring a pivot in their life and their health, but are hesitant to take the leap and really specialize in what you feel that you're called to, because it's just one more thing to add to your plate and it just feels overwhelming. So first we're going to look at the lies and the truths. And our view of ourselves is it's either going to enable us to do what God has created us to do, or it limits us from becoming all that He means for us to be. It's critical that you demonstrate any lies that you believe about yourself. So, or decimate any lies that you believe about yourself. And that is from the book Lies That Young Women Believe and the Truth That Sets Them Free. If you have not ever read the Lies That Women Believe, that is an excellent book. And then my daughters have the Lies That Young Women Believe. And then you do not want to be afraid or discouraged because of the vast army, for the battle is not yours, but it is God's. The lies that we believe, one is that self-care is selfish. And I don't think that we believe that on a conscious level, but I think a lot of, especially working moms, women in particular, believe that deep down. And self-care is actually how you take your power back. I think the best example is put your oxygen mask on first. And there's a reason that you do that, because if you are overwhelmed and you're panicking and the plane is on fire or the plane is going down, and you put the oxygen on your children or your family member or the elderly person sitting next to you first, you are not going to get enough oxygen to be able to help yourself or the other people around you. So self-care is how you take your power back. And another lie is, if I do not give people what they want, I will end up all alone or maybe feeling rejected. And the truth is that setting healthy boundaries is critical to your health and your well-being. And another lie is, if I let my real emotions show, they will overwhelm other people, or they'll think I'm crazy, or they'll think I've lost my mind. And emotional maturity actually allows you to feel all emotions, good and bad. There are no such thing as good and bad, but we kind of categorize emotions. But they allow you to process. It allows you to process them all the way through when you allow yourself to feel them. And God gave us emotions to use as a gauge. Even Jesus had emotions. It said a couple of times that he felt sad or that he cried. So it is a God-given gift to us to have emotions. They are not a bad thing. And then I have to do everything on my own is another lie. I just want to remind you that you are not alone. God created us for community. And if you don't have a community yet, I encourage you to start building one or get involved in one, because having community is very important. And I can make it on my own without consistent time in the Word and prayer. This was one that was big for me. And this is actually from the book Lies That Women Believe. It's actually impossible for me to be the best woman God wants me to be, apart from spending consistent time cultivating a relationship with Him in the Word and in prayer. Okay, so do not conform to the pattern of this world. Be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, His good, pleasing, and perfect will. This verse has come up on my newsfeed on Instagram and on Facebook about 30 times today. So it's like one of those echoing verses today. We were not created to feel overwhelmed and tired all the time. And so just some of the things that you can do here is transform your thought life through prayer, seeking freedom for your family, your health, and your legacy. And Rachel said that's her verse of the year. That's a good verse to have. And I actually read it in the Passion Translation this morning before I got on social media. And that's a really good translation to read it in. I can't talk today. Okay, so I'm going to invite you again tonight to disconnect, turn your phones on mute, put them upside down so you can't see notifications coming through. Shut the door, and we will go ahead and get started. I'm going to introduce myself again. I'm a holistic life and health coach. I'm a girl mom. I have 2 daughters. I'm a believer. I consider myself a world changer. I'm an author, not published yet, but I am an author. I'm not a doctor. I can't diagnose or prescribe anything. I'm passionate about faith, family, health, and freedom. I am a homeschooling mom. I homeschooled both my daughters through high school. They both went to public school for middle school, but I homeschooled them through high school. I love essential oils. They actually were one of the first things that got me started into holistic health. About 9 years ago, 2014 was when I started using essential oils. And I am fluent in memes. I love memes. They crack me up, and I will usually respond sarcastically with a meme. So I apologize if you don't get my humor, but I love memes. And I love to laugh, and I like to make people laugh. And I have overcome multiple mindset blocks and life obstacles that were holding me back. I manage my 3 autoimmunities and Epstein-Barr naturally through lifestyle and diet and stress management. I created a business that I love, and God saved me from an abusive relationship and has healed my heart where I thought that it never could be healed. And I know that healing is possible. And I know that God doesn't have any favorites, according to Romans 2:11. He loves all of us equally. So if he did it for me, he will do it for you as well. So tonight we are breaking free from overwhelm. It is time to put our crazy, overworked, overbooked, overstimulated lives on the altar. God has so much bigger plans for you, but we have to make room for him before we can even hear him, let alone do what he's asking for us to do. So tonight, your workbook has some pages for notes. It's designed for you to do on your own, but there's also, we're going to go through in a little bit over some trackers that are in there as well, and then a journaling question for you to answer as well. So simple hacks to change your daily habits. It doesn't have to be so complicated. What holistic health really is not that complicated, but we make it complicated and we make our lives complicated. And God is calling us out from our busy season into a season of slowing down. In 2020, we were forced to slow down. We didn't have a choice. Everything was shut down. And this time, right now, we're in a season of an invitation to slow down. And the question is, are you going to accept it? Or are you going to continue down the path that you're currently on and go back to the way things were before? I don't think that we can ever go back to the way things were before 2020, but I think a lot of us have grief inside of us of what was, and that season of our lives is gone. And sometimes we have to process the grief of the loss. But there were a lot of things that were taking up time over our lives, the busyness, the always going, always doing things, never having time to do just nothing or having downtime with your family. We were forced into that in 2020, putting all of those things aside. And now we are at a point where it's an invitation from God to not go back to the busyness. So before we go through everything, these are some tips to keep you from getting overwhelmed by this class on breaking free from being overwhelmed. Because I know how I am, that I'm going to sit there. If I was listening to this class, I would be like, okay, I have to do all the things. I have to do every single thing that she's talking about. I have to write all these notes down. Number one is the 1% method. So if you've been in my group a while, you've heard me talk a little bit about the 1% method, and that is every single day, do 1% more than you did the day before. If you have totally messed up your entire day and you fell off the wagon, you didn't eat well, you stopped and got Starbucks because you're exhausted because you didn't get enough sleep last night, that you have until bedtime to do what 1% better, and that is go to bed 10 or 15 minutes earlier than you did the day before. So just give yourself grace, give yourself patience, and just remember, if you can do 1% better today than you did yesterday, then you're doing well. Pick 1 or 2 things that I talk about tonight to work on, and ask the Holy Spirit to help you discern what's for you and what's to leave at the table. If I ever go to, I went to a convention recently, and there were books out in the hallway, and I wanted every single one of them. But number one, I couldn't afford every single one of them. Number two, I know I don't have time to read every single one of them. Number three, I have a lot of books in my house that I've never touched and I've never read. So this is the same thing, that you need to discern what is for you and what's not for you. And if it feels overwhelming and you start having negative thoughts about something, if it's convicting you, that's different. If it's overwhelming you, put it aside and just leave it at the table. But if it's convicting you, then it might be the Holy Spirit saying, this is for you. So do not be anxious about anything, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be known to God. We are not going through this to add more stuff to your list of things to do. If you're feeling anxious, then pray about it and ask God what's for you and what's not. And sometimes what I like to take notes. I'm a note taker, but sometimes I have to just put my notebook down and allow my spirit to receive and ask the Holy Spirit to bring back to me what's important. And so if this is feeling overwhelming, that may be a tip that's going to help you tonight, is just listen. So the first thing is habit stacking. The habit stacking is creating new habits by stacking them on habits that you already have. One example is that to get my water in every day, I usually forget to drink my water, especially in the winter when I'm drinking hot tea all day. Every time I go to the bathroom, I fill up my cup. Now, usually my cup has not been touched in that entire time between the last time I went to the bathroom and the last when I filled it up. So I chug my water, go use the restroom, fill up my cup, and go back and sit down and do work. And then I have to get up and go to the bathroom because I chugged my water 30 minutes ago, and I do it all over again. So that's one thing that I do to get my water in, is that you going to the bathroom is not necessarily a habit, but it's something that you should do. If you have to go, you go. But stacking something on top of it, that's what I'm doing here, is stacking. When I take my supplements, I put them by my tea. You can use a coffee maker. I don't drink coffee, but or you can put them next to your toothbrush. That's another tip. And in that way, every time you brush your teeth, you remember to take your supplements. Or when you make your coffee in the morning, you remember to take your supplements. I put my Bible and my journal next to my phone. So instead of picking up my phone in the morning, I see my Bible and my journal sitting there, and I know that that's really what I should be doing. I don't always pick them up first, but they're at least there so that I see them. After I pour my cup, these are some tips that were on a website. After I pour my cup of coffee each morning, I'll meditate, pray, and recite a verse after one minute, or for a full minute, maybe while the coffee's brewing. After I take off my work shoes, immediately change into my workout clothes. After I sit down to dinner, I will say one thing I'm grateful for that happened today. After I get in bed at night, I will read for 20 minutes. That's actually something I do as well. After I put on my running shoes, I'll text a friend or family member where I'm running and how long it's going to take. When I pick up my phone first thing in the morning, I will text a loved one just because, and let them know that I'm thinking about them. So these are just different things that you can do. It doesn't matter necessarily that you do all of these things, but just examples of how you can habit stack. And so if there's something that you do every single day and you want to start doing something else every single day, start stacking those habits. You can do this in a positive way or a negative way. I actually am an ex-smoker. My daughter's 21 and I quit smoking before I got pregnant with her. So I quit smoking 22, 23 years ago. But I realized after I quit smoking, I was more addicted to the habit of smoking than I was actually smoking, because I would get in the car and I would light a cigarette. I would get on the phone and I would light a cigarette. And so I started habit stacking without even realizing I was doing it, because I didn't want to think about lighting a cigarette. I would do something else in replacement. So if I got on the phone, I would grab a piece of paper and a pen and I would start doodling or just scribbling. And then that way I wasn't thinking about smoking while I was. So there's different ways that you can habit stack. And there's negative ways that you can habit stack, like I had smoking with the phone, smoking with driving. So be aware of negative habit stacking as well. And then quit thinking about exercise as a chore or a punishment for eating poorly. I know that a lot of us do this, but you want to choose to move because you love your body and you deserve to feel good in your body. Um, Here's some tips for you to not feel like exercise is an overwhelming chore. We talked about last night how moving for 10 or 15 minutes after your meal helps your blood sugar. So that's actually going to make you physically feel good. Um, and you'll get your exercise in. If you do it 2 times a day, you've got 30 minutes in. Find activities that you enjoy doing. That's really important to me because I don't like walking on the treadmill. It's so boring. But I do like watching certain shows. And so sometimes if I decide I'm going to walk on the treadmill, I will reward myself with watching a show while I'm doing it. So there's a couple, you give yourself rewards for doing the things that you enjoy doing. I love to turn up the music and clean the house and dance while I'm doing it. That's one way to get movement in. So that's one, just pick things that you enjoy doing. Don't do it just because you have to do it. Go through the thought model and think about why you don't like exercising, why you think you don't have time to exercise, and ask God to help you and choose new thoughts to think and see your workbook on how to do that. But I wanted to share a little bit. I actually shared a little bit with Jackie earlier today. I had an aversion to exercise because exercise is stressful. It's physically a stressor on your body. And it releases endorphins. So it's not all bad, but it can be a flare up for my Epstein-Barr virus. I didn't make the connection on a conscious level, but I did make the connection on a subconscious level, and through going through the thought model and asking God, why do I hate exercise so much? He actually pointed out to me that I had a fear of getting an Epstein-Barr virus flare. And so I was afraid that if I exercised too much or exerted myself too much, that I was going to flare myself. And if you remember me saying the other night that if I get a flare, I am down for 12 to 14, sometimes 18 months. I don't have the capacity to go through that again. I do not want to do that again. And so I was allowing myself to get into a place of fear of not exercising. So your story is probably completely different than mine. It may or may not be, but figure out what it is. What's the aversion? Maybe you've been doing it before and you've convinced yourself that it doesn't do anything. And so you've decided, well, it didn't work before, it's not going to work now. And if you have that thought, you want to go through the thought model and start replacing it with more positive thoughts of, yes, it didn't work before for me to help lose weight. And but if I get on the treadmill today, I might not see any changes, but in a year, if I did it every 3 days a week for an entire year, then I might see a difference. So changing the way that you're thinking about it is going to really help your aversion to exercise, if it is an aversion. A lot of people love exercising, but a lot of people don't. And then muscle work is going to be far more effective than cardio. If you can, just lift heavy things. If you really just don't feel like exercising, you could go out to your garage and just start moving boxes around and organize. It's going to be better for you than doing something that you hate and then you're getting something done at the same time. You can walk in different areas, neighborhoods, parks and trails, change the view, get a small trampoline. That's actually, if you can jump on a trampoline for 10 or 15 minutes every day, it's rebounding and it's actually great for your lymphatic system and it gets things flowing. Our lymphatic system is one system in our body that doesn't have an exit. And so we want to keep moving to keep our lymphs flowing, because when they get stagnant, that's when we start getting sick, start getting viruses that are going around. and we don't want that. So rebounding is very healthy. Dry brushing also is great for your lymphatic system. And then put your walking shoes right next to your bed or your coffee maker. That's habit stacking. That's one thing to trigger yourself to remember, oh yeah, I'm supposed to go for a walk today. And then stand while you work if it's possible, or stand or move while you listen to conference calls and trainings. I am notorious for just sitting and listening to calls. I work from home and it's ridiculous. There's no reason for me to just sit and stare at a computer screen when I could be standing and staring at a computer screen, and it's more healthy for my body. So those are just a couple of tips for getting in some movement. You also want to prioritize sleep, and setting realistic goals for your sleep is going to ensure that you get the rest that you need without compromising your productivity. If you're tired, you will get less done and more done poorly. So you want to make sure that you're putting sleep as one of the top priorities. I know that there's seasons in our lives, like if you have a baby, it's just not a season for sleeping most of the time when you have a baby. And the rule of sleep when the baby sleeps sounds great, but it's usually very difficult to do. So I know that there's seasons when sleep can't always be a top priority, but if you're in a season where you can prioritize sleep, I highly recommend it. If sleeping comes hard for you, if you have trouble going to sleep, turn on worship music at bedtime, turn off your electronics. Usually I say at least an hour before you go to bed. Staying away from electronics. Blue light is horrible because it tells your brain that it's daytime out. And so if you're looking at a TV screen or a computer screen, phone, tablet, your mind thinks and your body thinks that it's daylight. So having the electronics off for at least an hour helps. If you can unplug your Wi-Fi, the EMF signals can disrupt your sleep. I personally, we all do streaming. I have teenagers and a young adult who lives with me who we're watching something all the time. So unplugging Wi-Fi is nearly impossible because they're up till 2 or 3 in the morning. I'm up at 6 in the morning. It's just not going to happen. But if you can, unplug your Wi-Fi. And then stop caffeine after 3 p.m. or stop it altogether for a season to see if it helps. Check your magnesium levels and possibly supplement magnesium. Most people are deficient in all minerals. So potassium, magnesium, calcium, and sodium are the main ones. If you're not sleeping well, it's very likely a magnesium deficiency. You can use essential oils such as cedarwood, lavender, etc. while you sleep. Sometimes essential oils, certain ones will keep certain people awake. So if one doesn't work for you, then try a different one. Don't keep trying the same one. If it keeps you awake, then don't do it. And then read for 20 minutes before bedtime. And it's a really good way to turn off your mind off of things of that's going on in your world, especially if you can read a nonfiction or a fiction book, something that's uplifting, where you're not thinking about all of the things that you need to do or all the things that you need to change about yourself. When you get into the self-help books and stuff, that's not something that's going to relax you before you go to bed. And then meal planning. And this is actually something that a friend of mine who's also a health coach says all the time, and I am 100% in agreement with her. Failure to plan is planning to fail. And so I actually have a whole meal planning freebie at bit.ly/momhack. If you need that in the group later, let me know. But you can download the whole thing, but I'm going to tell you what it is because it's very simple. And I created this meal plan when I was crazy busy. Life was insane. And we were eating the same 5 meals every single week. And my kids started rebelling. They were like, I don't want this ever again, Mom. So I was cooking the same things all the time. And so what I did was I made a list of at least 30 meals, and the list has grown over the years, but list of at least 30 meals that my kids will eat. They're fairly simple to make. They're pretty healthy. And I just went down the list every single month, and I never cook the same thing twice in a month, except Tuesdays, because Tuesdays historically in my family have been Taco Tuesday. And then pizza is historically pizza night, or Friday night's pizza night. We don't always do that now because we're trying to get away from eating those things, but I have figured out how to make tacos healthy, and I have figured out how to make pizza healthy. So if you need some help in those areas, let me know, because those are my favorite foods. But in that meal planning guide, I actually have links to 30 different meals for you and a blank sheet where you can fill it out and create your own menu. If you don't like the one that I have a full page of one pan meal ideas where you can mix and match and create different meals. So there's probably a full year of different recipes on that you can use and not cook the same meal multiple times. So it's a great resource for you. But I just want you to listen to this, because this is what my life used to look like all the time. Does this sound familiar? I woke up tired. I was running late, so I stopped at Starbucks for a drink and a snack after dropping the kids off from school. Oh, shoot, I left my lunch at home in the fridge. I'll just run out during my lunch break and grab something. Oh, my day got away from me. It's 3 p.m. I didn't have time to get lunch, so I got a snack from the vending machine. Why are all my coworkers so annoying? It's 5 p.m. and I'm famished. I will just stop at Chick-fil-A, Lord's Chicken, for dinner tonight because I'm too tired and too hungry to decide what we're having for dinner. Why are my kids acting like little maniacs? My husband never helps me with them ever. He's driving me crazy. I'm so tired of this. They are all driving me insane. I need a glass of wine now to calm my nerves. It's 9 p.m. No idea how homework got done, but it did. The kids are in bed and I am so hungry. I just need to finish that ice cream before I start my diet on Monday anyway, so I'm going to eat the ice cream. It's 11 p.m. and I'm wide awake. I should be sleepy. Ugh, tomorrow I will do better. Does that sound familiar? Because that is what my life used to look like. It started out where I'd wake up tired and I would just repeat the same things over and over again. And this is where the overwhelm comes in, is just not having a plan. So I definitely recommend having a plan, because failure to plan is planning to fail. And then meditating on the word. Joshua 1:18 says, the book of law shall not depart from your mouth, but you shall meditate on it day and night, so that you may be careful to do according to all that is written. For then you will make your way prosperous and you will have success. So when we have the word in our minds, when we read the word, we begin to memorize it, and we can combat lies. We can calm our emotions. We can calm our nerves, reduce stress. We can think about the goodness of God, not the troubles of the world. It gives us a new perspective, and it puts us in a posture of gratitude instead of overwhelm, and it will make our way prosperous and we will have success. That's a promise that's right here in Joshua. And so meditating on the word is a great way to release yourself from overwhelm as well. And then using technology, even though it has not been my friend this week, I use technology a lot and I love it. Here's a couple of things that you can do. That you can use the 135 list app. I actually do not use that one anymore, but some people love it. I use the Keep app a lot. The Keep app is just, it's a Google app, but I use it on my phone. And it's like little sticky pads. You can make check marks or little check off things. I put all of my things to do. Sometimes I take notes in it. There's lots of different apps that you can use, but the Keep app is great because you can use the sticky pads on your phone, or you can go back to your computer and they're there as well. Set reminders and alarms. Last night I was laying in bed and realized that and this wouldn't work if you unplug your Wi-Fi, but I remembered a couple of things that I needed to do today, and I didn't want to turn on the light. I didn't want to pick up my phone. So I just hollered at my Echo and I said, hey, remind me at 9 a.m. to do da, da, da. And then at 9 a.m. this morning, she told me exactly what to do. So use your reminders and alarms, and use technology for your advantage to help remove some of the overwhelm. You can also do blocking apps to keep you from mindlessly scrolling. Basically, they shut off your social media apps for a time during the day. You can go into your settings in Facebook and see how much time you're spending every day on Facebook. And I think a lot of us as people do more scrolling than we think that we do. And then this is actually something that one of the coaches that I follow recommended that I do when I was in her class. And that was track your time so that you can get a good picture of exactly what you're doing with your time. And for 2 days, what she had us do was track our time. For every 15 minutes. We would write down exactly what we were doing in that 15 minutes and start tracking exactly how the time is spent. It's a really good way to see how much time you're wasting. You think that, oh, I'm just going to trick myself and I'm going to be busy the whole 2 days. By the time you have done this for 3 hours, you're done with tricking yourself and you realize that you were wasting a lot of time by tricking yourself. And so it's a really good way to figure out where you have time, where you don't think that you have time. But it is a challenge. I will be honest with you. It's not a fun challenge. And then for God gave us a spirit not of fear, but of power, love, and self-control. And so we have to remember that we do have self-control because God has given that to us. And a lot of times we think that our time is out of our control, but it really is not. Time is not a circumstance. It is in our control. And then stop multitasking. I actually love this quote. Multitasking is merely the opportunity to screw up more than one thing at a time. I think that is absolutely true. And actually, multitasking, the brain actually cannot physically multitask. When it comes to paying attention, it's a myth. You can't pay attention to more than one thing at a time. If you've ever tried doing something really important or not important, if you're on your phone and you have a kid that's over here talking to you, I can guarantee that you are either paying attention to the child or you're paying attention to your phone. You're not paying attention to both because you can't. And so studies show that a person who is interrupted takes 50% longer to accomplish one task. And not only that, he or she makes up 50% more errors. And so it's so important to just do one thing at a time. And that's really going to reduce your feeling of overwhelm, because when you're trying to do multiple things at one time, you're really not. You're doing, you're pausing, you're doing, you're pausing, and a whole bunch of little things are partially getting done because it's not possible to multitask. Our brains just aren't made that way. And outsourcing. This is one of my favorite verses, and a lot of people forget about this when we talk about the proverb woman, because she is a wife, she's a mother, she's a business owner, and she does all kinds of wonderful things, and she laughs at the future because her life is so wonderful. Well, if you read verse 13 or verse 15, she gets up while it's still night. That's amazing. It's still night outside. She gets up and she provides food for her family, and she prioritizes let me see, I can't read portions. Sorry, I can't read that font. She portions for her female servants. So that is the key, is that she has female servants. She doesn't do everything by herself. She's portioning out different things. She's outsourcing. So yes, she gets up when it's still night. Yes, she provides food for her family, but then she also starts delegating and telling her female servants what she needs help with that day. And so we need to remember to delegate and outsource when we can. Not all outsourcing is stuff that you have to pay for. One thing that I do that has actually saved me money, it depends on how you do things, but I started ordering those pre-prepped meals. We do Green Chef. I just paused it because we're going to start an elimination diet thing that they just can't accommodate. But we're not throwing away any vegetables. And so overall, if you are making your food from scratch every single night, and you have all the ingredients, it probably isn't going to save you money. But if you are going out to dinner often, or if you're ordering takeout, or you're just not eating very healthy meals, it's a godsend because somebody else gets all of the meal together for you. They put all of the ingredients in a bag. It's all fresh, and then we just take it out and then we cook it. We follow the directions. Most of them are done in 35 minutes or less. Most of them are like 25 minutes that we get. But that's one area that I outsource. My top priority when I am able to afford it is to also outsource house cleaning, because that's just not something that I have time to do. So when you can, hire or delegate, ask kids to help you. Today was an extremely busy day for me. And so I asked my daughter to do the snow shoveling, and she was out there shoveling snow all day long because it hasn't stopped snowing. And then also finish what is almost done. If you're struggling with this, go back to the thought model and what's keeping you from, ask yourself what's keeping you from finishing it. There are so many projects that we have and things that are going on. And if it's something that's almost done, just finish it and get it off your plate. And I need to follow this advice myself. I have on my thing that I'm an author. I wrote a book and it's been almost done for so long, and it's time for me to just finish it. And so that this is something that we need to figure out why we're not finishing it. Maybe it's for me, I'm just guessing that it's probably a fear of nobody's ever going to read it. And that's a thought that's probably in the back of my mind. I don't know, but I'm guessing that's probably what it is. So figure out what it is that's keeping you from finishing what's almost done, and then get it done. This is also something that really works well for me is brain dumping. Write down everything that's on your mind before you go to sleep, and again when you wake up. It doesn't even have to be down a straight line or check marks. You could do thought bubbles. Those are really helpful. And just write things down. If you're an orderly person, it's okay if you make a list. There's no right way or wrong way to do it. But sometimes you're thinking about things that need to get done a year in advance. And so if right before bed, you're thinking about, oh, I need to get a dress for Aunt Karen's wedding that is next July, put it on your calendar for April to start thinking about getting that dress. Just the next morning, go through your calendar, start putting things that you brain dumped about that are in the future. And in that way, you're not thinking about it right before you go to sleep, so that you can sleep at night and you're getting that overwhelm and those thoughts out of your head. If you write it down in your book, sometimes you'll see that some things that you write down aren't important at all. And sometimes you'll write things down that need to be put on a calendar. Just remember to put it on the calendar, and then that way the next night it's not in your head again at the same time. And then setting boundaries. This is actually really important to do, that I have had a lot of practice at lately because I have teenagers, and you don't realize how much you don't have boundaries set until they start crossing over every single boundary that you thought you had. Setting boundaries it frees you up to live a life on your own terms. What I like to do is see boundaries as a visual, and come into agreement with what you're okay with and write that within the circle, and then things that are not okay with. You can set boundaries around emotional energy, your time, personal space, your sexuality, morals and ethics, material possessions and finances, social media. You can set boundaries with family, friends, romantic relationships, coworkers, strangers, and yourself. That's important to realize what you're okay with and what you're not okay with, and stay within those boundaries. You want to visualize and name your limits, openly communicate your boundaries. If you don't tell people what your boundaries are, they don't know that they're crossing them. And so that's really important. And then reiterate and uphold your boundaries. Don't be afraid to say no, take time for yourself, and then deal with difficult people. It's hard to do, but you want to try to deal with the difficult people as much as you can. For yourself, you want to have a set schedule and stick to it. Know and understand what your limits are and allow yourself to clock out for the day mentally as well as physically. I think the best example that I have for this is having teenagers and just setting those boundaries and then allowing them to have boundaries as well, and realizing that sometimes you're going to cross over their boundaries. So it teaches them to have a healthy discussion about boundaries. And then sometimes I've given my daughter the permission to challenge the boundaries that I've set. So if I say no too soon, I've given her permission to say, did you think about it? And do you really mean no? Or are you just saying that because you don't want to think about it? So I've given her permission to challenge the boundaries that I've set for her. And so just opening that communication with people is really important. And you want to honor yourself, giving yourself grace, being patient with yourself, and knowing when it's time to say enough. Take the day off, relax, breathe, and realize everything's going to be okay. As an example, today I woke up, I was feeling very overwhelmed and underprepared for this class that I've been doing for 4 nights. And so I sent a text to my boss and I said, I'm taking the day off because I knew that it was too much. And so you have to honor yourself. And every time that you dishonor yourself, you're setting yourself up not to trust yourself in the future. And so you want to always honor yourself and your own boundaries. And that is the secret sauce that I have learned. And then, are you overstimulated? Maybe it's not ADHD, depression, or anxiety, even though TikTok has convinced everybody that they have ADHD. You might not. A lot of people realize that babies get overstimulated because they start crying when there's too many bright lights and too many noises, too many sounds. But adults get overstimulated as well. One of the best visualizations that I have for this is a cup of water. When you wake up, you have a certain amount of you have a cup basically, and water that's within the cup is your tolerance level. And every time you add more to it, it's stress. And so if you are at a place in your life where life is very stressful, your tolerance level might be up here. And so you only have a very small amount of stress that can be added. But somebody that doesn't have crazy things going on, no trauma, no stress, no job, no kids, and that's none of us, but their tolerance level's way down here. So you can add a whole bunch of stress in throughout the day. And so this was a visual that my daughter and I used when she was young, and she would actually tell me, my cup is full. And so that meant I can't handle anything more. And that would, to me, that would be a signal of I need to take the day off of work, possibly sit in class with her, or possibly take a mental health day with her, because it just depended on how stressful things were for her. But if you can think in your mind, my cup is full, you realize that you can't handle more stress. There's lots of different things that you can see here to realize what is overstimulation, but really just knowing what your triggers are and knowing how to beat them, realizing that your cup is full and you can't handle anything more, and then just taking a step back and giving yourself grace and honoring yourself and giving yourself boundaries. And when the righteous cry for help, the Lord hears and delivers them out of their troubles. So also, if you are feeling overstimulated, say a little prayer and God will help you with peace as well. And this has been a slide in every single slideshow this week. I don't know if you've noticed, but you can only change what you have control over. You can't change the circumstance, but you can change your thoughts and your emotions around those. And then, is there such thing as balance? So I think that this visual of the rocks is the absolute best thing to give you a visualization of balance. The rocks aren't all the same size. They're not the same shape. Some of them are bigger, some of them are smaller. When we think of balance, we think of the scales, and so we think we have family on this side and we have work on this side and we have to balance them. That's not true. What truth is that sometimes our family rock is bigger, so it has to be the big one on the bottom. Sometimes the work rock is bigger and it has to be the big one on the bottom. We have to figure out what is the most important to give the most attention to and give that to it. And that's when we find balance and we start finding peace. If we're giving way too much weight to the top rock, and let's just say that this is your work rock, and we've tried to put that one on the bottom, everything's going to topple over. And so we want to just make sure that when their balance isn't equal, I think is what I'm trying to say here, is that everything's not equal. There has to be a balance to things by putting certain emphasis on what's important in that season of your life. And so sometimes when you have small children, that's where the emphasis is going to go. If you're building a business, then that's where your emphasis is going to go. I think family and God should always be some of the main ones that are down there, because if they're not, then everything's going to topple over. And so I think that the Ecclesiastes 1:3-10 is the best verse, and that is that there's appointed time for everything, and that there is a time for every event under heaven. And so there's a season for all things. There's a season for work, there's a season for family, there's a season for business, and right now we're in a season of releasing the overwhelm. And most of the stresses and overwhelm that we carry are not ours to carry. And that's something to remember as well, is that Jesus said, "Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls, for my yoke is easy and my burden is light." And so when we give our burdens to him, then it doesn't feel so overwhelming. And time, when we are not fatigued from our lifestyles or the foods that we're eating, and when we're getting enough sleep every single night, we suddenly seem to have more time. And time and money to God are actually resources that he uses to allow us to bring others to him. I think that we forget that sometimes. And with time, Psalm 90:12 says, "Teach us to number our days so that we may get a heart of wisdom." So the kingdom economy works completely different. When we're in alignment with God's plans and purposes, we have all of the time and money that we need, not necessarily what we want, but what we need. We'll have everything that we need there. And God actually showed me how the kingdom economy with money works with tithing, that if you give your first fruits and you give 10% of your increase of what you have, then you have an abundance of finances. That's how the kingdom economy works. Well, it works the same way with time. If you're giving your first fruits and you're tithing your time to God, then you will actually have more time than you thought that you had to, and you'll have everything that you need. So it's actually a really cool concept. And don't forget to give the time that you have to the Lord. Now, this simple start daily checklist is also, it's in the workbook for tonight, but you can also get it at bit.ly/simple start checklist. But it's a checklist to just start doing a couple things to start changing your habits. It has check marks to how to take care of yourself. You want to do all of these every day. Building your body, you can pick one or more of these. So go for a walk, and then you're done. You've picked you can check it off. I love to check things off. I don't know about you guys. And then take care of the house. And so pick one of these, maybe sweep your kitchen, build your brain. You can write in your journal and then check it off or read a book. But you pick one and plus read 10 pages on the day. Build your faith so you can read your Bible, pray for someone, and spend time with God. So you want to do all of those. And then build someone up, pick one. Write a letter, call a friend, send a text to somebody, random act of kindness, and then pick 6 or more of these, and you can duplicate these, but drink lemon water, apply and diffuse essential oils, just a couple of examples here. So there's different things that you can do. And just by doing a few simple daily tasks, it starts to build your habits, and you get to check things off of your to-do list, and you'll start seeing noticeable changes. And in your workbook is also a daily tracker where you can write down what your goal is, what your why is, things to remember, things to do for the day. And then you have a food tracker here, writing down what you ate. And then when you write down how you feel and you're not down here and you're not feeling so great, you can look at the day before to see what you ate and see if maybe there's something that may have triggered your body, what you're grateful for, movement tracker, how you feel physically and your mood. You can put a quote for the day and then track your water as well. And then the weekly planner, just write down things that are most important to you to get done each day or on Sunday evenings, and pick a day that works best if Sunday is not best for you. But you want to write down everything that you want to get done for the week the night before. And then something to think about: God did not create us to be busy, fatigued, overworked, and feeling deprived all the time. It is time to put overwhelm on the altar. Jesus looked at them and said, with man, this is impossible, but with God, all things are possible. So even though it may feel like it's not possible in this season of your life to put the overwhelm on the altar, Jesus would disagree with you, because all things are possible through him. And then back to choosing your heart, challenging your thoughts, setting boundaries, letting things go that aren't ours to carry is hard. Allowing your mind, your schedule, your family, your work, your kids' schedules, and your busyness to have complete control over your emotions, your time, and your actions, and your results is also hard. Choose your heart. And then some prayer points for you is you can ask God, do I use my time wisely? You can ask him to help evaluate how you use your time. Is there anything that I need to do that needs to be laid down? And you can start removing things from your schedule. What thoughts and beliefs do I need to change? Ask God to reveal to you some thoughts and beliefs that you have that are not true. And help my unbelief. This is one that I will usually always put on here, because you can ask God to help you where you are struggling with belief. Co-create with God, ask him to partner with you and take action to get momentum. God is giving you the tools that you need. Now it's your turn to do the work. Ask him what one thing is the next thing that you should do, should be. And then after the next thing after that, when you're done with the first thing. And then I just wanted to remind you that pre-registration is open until tonight, until 11:59 p.m. That's just pre-registration. And this is the Ultimate Wellness Coaching Program that was designed to create transformation for your mind, your body, and your soul in alignment with God's purposes and plans. It's a 4-month roadmap to more energy, fewer cravings, more clarity, and the healthy, abundant life that God created you for. And so it's my Vibrant Woman signature program and course. It comes with 2 monthly coaching calls, private online group access for support and accountability, my signature 6-phase build method, and we'll learn more about that tomorrow night. And each phase has 5 modules that you can watch at your own pace. And each phase includes a workbook, And you also get lifetime access. So if life happens and you have to jump off for a little while, you can jump back in when you're ready. And so as long as the program is still going, you will have lifetime access. And I plan to have this going for quite some time. And then I wanted to remind you about tomorrow night, the fun stuff. You want to be live on Zoom and be sure to introduce yourself. A lot of people have already done that in the group. And when you're live tomorrow, we'll do a drawing for an essential oil roller, a journal, this book called I'll Start Again Monday, and then also a $500 scholarship to my Vibrant Woman project. And the homework for tonight is, what are some thoughts or feelings that come up when you read this sentence? There is enough time in the day for me to do everything that I need to do, including care for myself, so that I can be the most healthy version of me. So you're going to journal about that and use the circumstance, thought, feeling, action, and result model on the next page that's in your workbook as well. Does anybody have any questions?
Hey, Amy.
Hey.
It's Rachel. Can anybody join the Facebook group that may not have registered for the workshop, like at any time? I'm not on Facebook, but I know friends who could get a lot out of this, and I know you're recording it. So would people be able to access this info at their leisure?
Absolutely, yes. Anybody can join the group, as long as I'm keeping it limited to women for now, but just join the group. And these recordings I'm going to keep up in the group for at least 2 weeks, and they're welcome to stay because I share. This is all information. If you were to gather everything that's in my group, this is all in there. It's just in lots of different places. So I'm sharing all of this information. So yes, absolutely. Thanks for asking, Rachel. And does anybody else have any questions? No? Okay, so tomorrow night, I can't wait to see everybody live and in here so we can do the giveaway. I really appreciate everybody's time tonight. And if we aren't already friends, you can follow me on at Amy Wadlington on Instagram and on Facebook. Email at hello@amywadlington.com, and my email or my website is amywadlington.com as well. So I really appreciate you guys spending another hour with me tonight. I know that this has been a huge time commitment, but I pray that it is fulfilling and rewarding and helping you really get a jump start onto your journey to health. So I hope you guys have a great night. Bye.